Hello, I'm Arianna Mercado, curator, writer, and lecturer. And in today's episode of Cultural Cash Online, I will be talking about visual artist Lani Maestro's 1981 untitled work in the Cultural Center of the Philippines 21st Century Art Museum collection. I first encountered this work on paper while I was an intern for CCP's Visual Arts and Museum Division. During my time as an intern, I helped the department in conducting research into their visual arts collection as they prepared to publish their catalog, Cultural Cash, the namesake of this web series. I was drawn to this work by Maestro because of my interest in abstraction and minimalism as an arts management student. After my internship, I included this work along with other artists from the CCP's collection in my first exhibition, entitled You Are Here, which was held in the Little Theater lobby in 2017. I was invited by Lani to talk about this work for today's episode. Maestro is well known for her multimedia and installation work encompassing text, sound, and video. She graduated from the University of the Philippines in 1977 and in the following year was awarded the CCP 13 Artist Award. In 1982, Maestro relocated to Canada and pursued graduate studies at the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design. She received an honorary doctorate from the same institution in 2018. Throughout her body of work, Maestro has created poetic renderings and tender responses to sites and their histories. She develops architectural interventions specific to its location, approaching particular sites and their contexts with reciprocity as key to shaping her work in its material and form. In questioning the materiality of object and site, political realities, and critical theory, Maestro's work speaks to ideas around memory, violence, language, and its embodiment in one's subjectivity. Before she moved to Canada, Maestro, like many students and cultural workers at the time, was involved in the growing anti-imperialist activist movements in the 70s. However, rather than primarily deploying social realism as subject matter and method to her work, Maestro turned to more abstracted, muted, and withdrawn expressions alongside her involvement in activism in the Philippines. In this untitled pencil and watercolor piece, we see swaths of different shades of gray and blue. At the top of the drawing, we see a panel of a gradient of gray, followed by vertical blue stripes, and finally, a darker gray which frames the foot of the piece. In pencil, Maestro cross-hatches across these colors, bringing out spontaneous and meditative textures that foreground this color field. These cross-hatches are repetitive actions, rendered mechanically, yet not totally perfect. This work was made by Maestro a year before she moved to Canada for a residency at the Banff Center in Alberta. The social and political climate in the Philippines was marked by state oppression, disappearances, and violence. Yet, at the CCP, and during the tenure of its former directors Roberto Chabet and Ray Albano, Maestro felt a certain freedom of artistic expression, one marked by mutual learning and inclusivity. To Maestro, many facets of herself could be true, that she could actively participate as an activist, while also chasing openness in the exploration of artistic forms and its approaches. While this watercolor piece can be considered one of Maestro's early works, I see its traces in the later and current directions of her practice. The act of repetitive gesture transitions into different forms of mark-making, as in her 1984 carved work, In the Dark Depths, which traveled to Cuba and was awarded the Bienal Prize at the second Habana Biennial, or in Strange Thirst, where she sketches lines that appear like raindrops across 41 framed notebook spreads. Looking at this untitled piece from afar, I noticed that the rendering of the cross-hatching seems to mimic the texture of textile. I'm reminded of fabrics like linen or gauze, where the weaving and construction of the fabric is visible, allowing air to pass through. The form somewhat also reminds me of a woven blanket. Throughout her practice, Maestro has used textile as part of her installations as either focal points or backdrops. For instance, in her 1996 work Cradle, she created translucent tents made with mosquito nets, allowing viewers to take refuge within these delicate structures. Shades of grays and blues make reappearances in other of Maestro's work, somehow creating a misty atmosphere, invoking the melancholic character of landscapes after rainfall. Works such as A Book Thick of Ocean or The Forgetting of Air elicits the same wistful yet flowing energy of a hazy scene or a vision not fully in focus, rendered through the minimal use of color and simple forms and gestures. Across her work, Maestra has sought to interrogate and subvert language, resisting clear boundaries and definitions. These initial explorations into obscured form and texture reveal the seeds of what has become Maestro's enduring artistic practice and commitment. In a recent conversation with Lani, she told me that what we do as artists in our lives, we already knew in the beginning. We spend the rest of our lives doubting and questioning, and eventually, the work reaffirms this truth. This untitled piece, while made early on in her practice, continues to speak to her impulses and motivations as an artist seeking openness, whether that is through politics, language, form, or interpretation. Thank you for joining me in this episode of Cultural Cash Online.